Hi, welcome to the DanCan Show, where I love what I do and I do what I love. Hey, and so should you. This is going to be one amazing episode. In this episode, we're going to dive into how a group of investors, the DanCan investors, helped a local church in Spokane, Washington. Yes, a local church reach their financial goals. This episode is going to be full of fun stories and rhythms and rhymes of how you can make money in your sleep by helping others. Stay tuned. Hi, I'm Dan Can, and I am the host of the Dan Can Show. And this is the show where we learn how to provide, promote, and protect, or provide, protect, and promote, however you want to look at it. The important thing is that we are doing that. We do that by having an invested life. And that's what this show is about, is how to invest in real estate, yourself, and others. If you are a father, husband, business leader, if you're looking to make money in your sleep, and if you want to make deposits into other people's lives, you have come to the right show. This show is unbelievable, and I can't wait. We haven't even recorded it, but I'm calling my shot like Babe Ruth. This is going to be an amazing show. Okay, so this is a Dan Can paraphrase, but it has been said that every good story has one of two things. One, a man comes to town, or two, a man goes on a journey. And this one is about a man that goes on a journey. Every good story has characters. I want to line out the characters of this investment story. First and foremost, there's a church. I know, right? A church in Spokane. There's Dan Can and his investors. There's a neighbor. And there's also the city. Now, the city is not the villain, okay? But the city does have a part of this. This was a deal where we were able to help a church here in Spokane, Washington, reach their financial goals. How fantastic is that? Man, I'm still smiling about this wonderful story. So first and foremost, we specialize in buying off-market properties. So these are properties that never hit the MLS. They're not on the open market. They're typically sourced through relationships. My number one goal as the owner and operator of Wave Capital is I'm in charge of creating and maintaining big relationships. I'm going to say that again. My job is creating and maintaining big relationships. I got a phone call from a real estate agent, and he said, hey, you may be interested in this deal. And I only know this gentleman because a year ago, my 17-year-old son on a golf course at our country club sourced the deal because he was having a conversation with someone that used to work at the club who is now a realtor. And my 17-year-old son casually mentioned that my dad, and I love how he says that, my dad and I buy off-market properties. So we bought a property from this new realtor. And my deal is if I buy the property from you as a realtor off market, after I renovate it, I will list with you. And so they get to get paid on the transaction twice. So they really enjoy that. This gentleman is the father of that realtor. He calls me and said, hey, I have a deal. It's not all the way done yet, but you may be interested in it. And I said, shoot, go for it. Tell me. This church is located in one of the best neighborhoods here in Spokane, Washington, the area is called the South Hill. And they were in a spot where they needed some finances and they needed it rather quickly. And so what they had decided was that they were going to parcel off a rental that was a part of the church parcel. And so they've actually rented this house for, I think, over 20 years. And in order to do, you have to initiate with the city and you have to parcel off that lot with the property. It has its own parcel number. And so they were in the process of doing this. He told me their desired price. And I said, okay, that's reasonable. So I went and walked the property with the pastor, a couple elders, and then the realtor. By far the cleanest property we've ever walked on an off market. And I like the property. It's 4-bedroom, 2-bath. It's in a beautiful neighborhood. They were having some issues because when they did the parcel, and these are like the details of this world, when they initiated with the city to parcel out the lot, they being the city, they did the line straight on one side of the property when it actually had to curve to allow for this parking spot, because then the investor who bought the house, would own that part of the parking spot, and that didn't work. So there was some confusion with the city. We were working that out. Here comes the problem. I'm in love with the property. I want to buy the property. I'm not in love with their price, but I love the property. Then the dreaded, if you're in the off-market world, you'll hear about this a lot. The dreaded neighbor came in and said, I will buy the property and I will give you $20,000 more than Dan can. And I said, guess what? You can pay $20,000 more because I'm not doing that. So I backed off the property, even though I really wanted it. In order for an off-market property to be successful, you have to buy right. If you spend any kind of time or money in real estate, you'll know that you make your money on the buy. I've been doing this for over 20 years. My real estate partner and I have already over 500 properties. He's been doing it since 1996. So I said, I'm out. The realtor was upset because he knows I can close in 2 weeks. We have this wild card guy, the neighbor, who says, I'll buy it. I just told him, hey, keep me informed. 2 weeks later, surprise, the neighbor's out. At that point, the market has softened a little bit. And so I said, hey, that original desired price that you have, I'm not able to hit that number. So I gave him my number. It wasn't a major haircut, but it was enough to be suitable for me and my investors. Because I'm supposed to provide, protect, and promote, I got to protect my investors. And so we signed the deal. And lo and behold, 2 weeks later, the church got a massive check. And they're going to be able to do some fantastic things to their church building. And they probably have some other awesome ideas, like giving some of it away to the community. But isn't this fun? And these are the kind of cool things that I get to partake in. We just closed on Monday, and Tuesday we started renovating the house. And I'm really excited to see this finished product. In addition to that, the realtor that referred the product to me, they get another listing here in 3 months. And so if you want to hear more about investing with DanCan, it's real simple. All you got to do is go to our website, investwithdancan.com. There's a quick little pre-fill. You just put in your information and it will email you a webinar where you can hear more about what we do at Wave Capital, which I'm the president of. I love this story because a man went on a journey. That journey was me. We solved some problems, right? Every good story has a problem. What were the problems in this story? The church needed finances. That occurred. I would like a property bought at a discount. That occurred. And we get to beautify the community, because this house, although it was nice and clean, it definitely is a little ragged. We're going to be able to make it nice and neat as a new shiny penny. I don't know if we make those anymore here in the United States, but I'm still going to use that phrase. If you want to partner with me, please visit me at investwithdancan.com. When we come back, I'm going to go over DanCan musings, and I'm going to share a story from when DanCan was 21 years old working construction, and how that can help you have an unbelievable life as an investor and having an invested life.
Tired of missing real estate deals because you were waiting for the bank to approve your funding? At Wave Capital Investing, we get you funded fast with flexible terms and a streamlined process. No red tape, no stress. Apply today at wavecapitallending.com and ride the wave to your next successful real estate investment.
Welcome back. Okay, so this is the DanCan musing story, and this is when I just share things that I observe. We've talked about the price of grapes. We have talked about Bible verses. We have talked about current events. Today is about me, once again, the DanCan Show. But I'm going to be turning 50 here in a couple days, and we had a birthday party for me and a big old barbecue. And one of my best childhood friends, Benny, as I call him, we have been friends since 1986. That's crazy. So listen to this story. We went to elementary school together, junior high, high school, and college together. We played football together. We played basketball. We wrestled on the same team. We ran track together. We actually worked together. We lived together. And we were also in each other's weddings. Ben has been a fantastic friend of mine for a long time. I hope that you have a friend like Ben. He's definitely one of those men that no matter where I'm at or what I'm doing, I can call him and he's there for me, which is a huge blessing. I invited him to come stay with us for the weekend because he lives on the other side of the state, and he did. And he shared a story that I don't remember, but Ben's not a liar, so I know it happened. I really believe in Proverbs 3:3, which it says, hey, this book, Proverbs, is written to help you live a disciplined and prudent life. And if you want to be an investor, you have to be disciplined and you have to be prudent. But you also have to have hope. Now, I've said this many times. Your business plan can't be hope, but you better have hope in your business plan. And so if you want to be a leader, you have to be optimistic. Now, I'm not saying you have to be an extrovert and run around with flags of hope and joy and all this other stuff, but you do have to have an undergirding of just hope and also encouragement. Here's the story that I think is pretty interesting that you might glean some wisdom from. So we spent a summer working together while we were in college doing construction for Ben's dad's company. I really enjoyed that work. It was good to build something at the end of the day. You could be like, hey, look what I built, or look what we did. What occurred was his dad had bought this flatbed truck that, let's just say, wasn't the best. And it kept breaking down. We didn't know if it was the alternator or the battery. And we were working in Kitsap County at the time. And Kitsap County is really spread out. A lot of country roads, a lot of back roads. And we were, of course, in one of those areas. And the truck had broken down. We needed a jump, and we were out what I call the boonies. We were out in the boonies. There's nobody there. So Ben, he grabs some jumper cables. He hands them to me and says, hey, listen, I'm going to put my head underneath this hood. I'm going to try to figure this thing out. But if any car comes by, Dan, you need to stop a car because we need to jump. Hey, I'm your guy. I can do this. So I have the jumper cables. I'm standing there forever, and there's no cars coming. Ben sees a car coming up the hill. And it's a really nice convertible Mercedes. There's a lady in there. And so Ben's, oh, Dan can get this guy to stop and this gal to stop. And I don't know why he said that, but apparently I was going to be able to do that. I'm standing in the middle of the road with jumper cables. And I'm like, help. This woman wanted nothing to do with DanCan, wanted nothing to do with Ben. She literally avoided me, went into the other lane. Her tires kicked up dust on the other shoulder. Ben looked over and he's mad because he wants to fix the problem. And he thought that I would be mad. Of course, this is where the story becomes funny. I quickly turn around because my back was facing Ben. I jumped, turn around, and I looked at Ben and I said, denied. And Ben just started laughing and said, man, Dan is somebody that no matter what happens, if it's good or bad, he's always going to have a positive attitude and he's always going to look on the brighter side of things. And it was really fun to hear that story. My family heard that story. Lisa heard that story. I had completely forgotten about it. But like I said, Ben's not a liar, so I'm pretty sure it happened. I hope that you can find joy in that. The principle of living a disciplined and prudent life is you got to have your eyes on the prize. What are you about? What are you going for today? And you want to make sure that your actions exemplify that. I am someone where I try to be an encourager. Obviously, as a leader, I have to correct. I have to, the term rebuke, whatever. I do need to do that. But I have found that positive reinforcement are far better results than if you're always a disciplinarian. However, as a leader, we know that we need to bring some discipline sometime. I believe that a disciplined and prudent life will help you have an invested life and be able to, when you have margin or when you have excess, if you're doing it right, you can deposit that into others. And that's really the goal of my life, is I want to help others succeed. I love hearing other people's stories. I love hearing what people are interested in. I just think it's a fantastic way to live. When we come back, I'm going to tie it all together. What is a church in Spokane? What does Proverbs 3:3 and what does Dan holding some jumper cables have to do with me today?
Overwhelmed by taxes, payroll, and bookkeeping? Busy Bee Bookkeeping helps Spokane businesses save time, money, and sanity. From tax prep and planning to custom fit bookkeeping and payroll, we tailor every service to your needs. Take the sting out of tax season. Visit busybeebookkeeping.com or call 509-931-159 and let us keep your books so you can grow your business.
Welcome back. I was just taking some notes there. Like I said earlier, my job is to create and maintain big relationships. If you want to invest with me, you can tap into those relationships that I've created over the last 10 years here in beautiful Spokane, Washington. In addition to that, we do a lot of investing in Kitsap County, where my partner has been investing since 1996. Man, you buy a lot of off-market homes since 1996. Those guys call you when they have deals because they want to be paid, and you make your money in real estate in the buy. I had said this, and this is a Dan Can paraphrase. A good story, usually two things happen. One, a man comes to town or a man goes on a journey. Today was about going on a journey. What was the problem with the off-market example that we talked about? The church had some financial goals that they wanted to meet, and they decided that they were going to sell their property, and they didn't want to put it on the market. They wanted it to not be quiet, but definitely not out there. And they also wanted it to be a quick return. And that's one of the beautiful things about when you raise your own private capital, and that's what Wave Capital is. When we have money earmarked on the sidelines to buy, we can help these sellers within 5 days to 2 weeks. And that was able to happen. Now, how did we source the deal? We sourced it with a relationship. How do you start relationships? We start relationships with obviously having conversation, getting coffee, tea, going golfing together, all these great things. One of the things that we do that's a little unique here in town is I'm able to create these relationships because I own a number of businesses here in Spokane. One of them, I'm able to sponsor a concert series here in town and also work with the local college in regards to basketball tickets. And I utilize those to help foster, maintain, and grow big relationships to find these off-market properties. Because I'm a giver, and I say that unashamedly because I'm a giver, because I freely give these gifts without really expecting anything in return, surprise, sometimes things come back. And this has definitely happened. The realtor that had sent us this deal, I've given them numerous tickets. And what's been great is they've been able to give them out to their clients, their customers, other referral partners that they work with. And so that has really helped create that net. One of the great things when you invest with me, you're investing in my capability of creating and maintaining relationships and finding these off-market properties. The solution was this. My investors got to invest in a great property at a fantastic rate. Their margin of safety is what we bought it for, and then what the ARV is, after repair value. The church problem was solved. They now have a hefty check in their account that they did not have 2 weeks ago. The realtor's problem is solved. They got paid on that transaction, selling that property. And in 4 to 5 months, they're going to have another listing. And of course, we hope they're going to get paid on that as well. Isn't this fun? I told the story about Dan Can musings and me being actually in the middle of the road with some jumper cables, just to give you a story of kind of who I am. I've always been somebody who's been positive, not afraid to take a risk. I wouldn't suggest standing out in the middle of the road, but it was the boonies, so there wasn't a whole lot of traffic. I don't even remember how we got out of that situation, to be honest with you, but we did, because here I am. I really appreciate the fact that you took some time to listen to this podcast. If you want to further the conversation, just go to my website, investwithdancan.com. And of course, as always, remember, look at the sign behind me. Love well and do good, Dan Can listeners. Till next time.